Are you thinking about signing up to WeFeed Raw, but you want to know the pros and cons of their raw dog food before you commit your money to their subscription plan? I placed an order with WeFeed Raw, and I have to say I was astounded by the transformation in my picky eater when I started to feed her WeFeed Raw. My name is Kieran, and I'm one part of Life at Klee Kai, alongside my wife Yasmin and my two dogs Skye and Copper. Before I get started, I just want to point out that this is not a sponsored video. WeFeed Raw have not paid me to do this pros and cons video. Also, if you do click any of the links in this video or in the description below, we may make a small commission. So with that out of the way, let's get started and take a look at my WeFeed Raw pros and cons. My biggest pro with feeding WeFeed Raw was the impact that it had on my picky eater. If you're familiar with our videos, you'll know that my female Alaskan Klee Kai, Skye, is extremely picky. I've had a lot of difficulty finding dog food that she would regularly eat. When I started to feed WeFeed Raw, I was honestly amazed by her reaction to their food. She showed more mealtime excitement than I've ever seen her show with any other dog food before. What do I mean by mealtime excitement? She would follow me to the freezer in anticipation that WeFeed Raw was coming out. She would do rings around me while I was putting the food in her bowl, and she would stalk me until I put her dog food bowl in its normal place, and she would guzzle down the meals just as quick as her brother Copper, which has never happened before with any other dog food. Copper is very food motivated, so I was not surprised to see him enjoy WeFeed Raw, but he also finished all of his bowls and he also showed a lot of mealtime excitement when it came to WeFeed Raw. So I think overall it's definitely picky eater approved and Alaskan Klee Kai approved, and if you have a picky eater, I would suggest giving WeFeed Raw a try, because like I said, I've never seen Skye react to any dog food like she did with WeFeed Raw's meals. My second pro would be that WeFeed Raw use human grade ingredients. Before I start feeding any dog food to Skye and Copper, I always check out the ingredients that are going into their recipes. I was really pleased to see that WeFeed Raw do use human grade ingredients. Obviously this is raw dog food, so there's a lot of organ meat and muscle meat, but there's also other ingredients in their recipes too. So I felt great knowing that Skye and Copper were eating a natural diet, just as nature intended, full of healthy ingredients that were of a high quality. WeFeed Raw also have a nutrient mix to make sure that your dog is eating a balanced and complete diet and getting all the essential ingredients that they do need in their day-to-day lives. If you're signing up to a dog food delivery company, you probably are expecting to get customized meal plans, and that was no different with WeFeed Raw. I was really pleased to see that they do customize my dog's food to meet their specific needs. So you do have to fill out their sign-up questionnaire that's answering key questions like age, breed, weight, activity level, what current food they're eating, and once you've done all that, WeFeed Raw will suggest a meal plan. Now, if you're familiar with my dog Skye and Copper, you'll know that Copper is a little bit overweight and Skye is a little bit underweight, and that was reflected in their individual meal plans that I got through WeFeed Raw. WeFeed Raw will provide feeding guidelines to make sure that you are getting portions right when it comes to mealtime and you're not overfeeding or underfeeding your dog. Another thing that I look for when I am signing up to a dog food delivery company is who formulates their pet food. WeFeed Raw use a PhD animal nutritionist to make sure that your dog is eating a balanced and complete diet and is getting all the daily nutrients that they need to live an active life by your side. WeFeed Raw make all their meals in a USDA approved facility before they're shipped cold so that they arrive at your doorstep frozen. Knowing that they use a PhD animal nutritionist and that all the Skye and Copper's meals were being made in a USDA approved facility made me feel good that they were getting high quality dog food. Having moved back to the USA from the UK last year, I was surprised to see that a lot of fresh dog food brands in the USA don't have massive recipe ranges. In the UK, we ordered from a dog food company that had over 10 different recipes to cater to picky eaters. Of all the brands that I reviewed since I've been back in the USA, WeFeed Raw have perhaps the best and most extensive range. They've got 6 different recipes: beef, chicken, duck, lamb, turkey, and venison. So that's 6 different protein sources, and I love that because that means I can rotate the proteins that I'm feeding Skye and Copper, and I find it particularly helps with Skye to keep her food motivated at mealtime. Now I have to say I didn't have any trouble keeping her motivated with WeFeed Raw, but if I did, or you do have a really fussy eater, I think the fact that WeFeed Raw offer up to 6 different recipes is great and a really good tool to have in your arsenal. Seeing as we're feeding raw dog food, it's actually perfect to use with slow feeders. Copper is a really rapid eater and I've been trying to slow him down to enjoy his meals more. I've been using a slow feeder and I found that WeFeed Raw was perfect with the slow feeder. I was able to smear the raw dog food across the slow feeder really easily. This was different to fresh dog food or air dried dog food where you're just putting the meals in and it's not quite as easy to put in a slow feeder and smear across all the grooves and edges. I found that the raw dog food worked the best for this. Also, if you want to put a tasty topper on top of WeFeed Raw, you can sprinkle it across the top, providing your dog with different textures as they eat. It's a small pro, but it's one thing that I found extremely useful because I am trying to introduce a slow feeder to Skye and Copper a little bit more. So by having raw dog food, it made it a little bit easier to do this. That brings me on to my next pro, which is that it's mixable. So like I said, while we do feed WeFeed Raw to Skye and Copper as I film this video, we also use an air dried dog food brand too. And we sprinkle the air dried dog food on top of the raw food. The great thing about WeFeed Raw is that you can mix it with other dry food or perhaps other natural ingredients that you have in your house, provided you've spoken to your vet about this and made sure that it's suitable for their diet. I like the fact that WeFeed Raw gives you lots of flexibility in terms of how you want to create your dog's meals. Finally, my last pro would be that WeFeed Raw is really competitively priced. Now, when you think of raw dog food, you may think of it being really expensive, and that was my experience of most raw dog food companies in the past. What I like about WeFeed Raw is that it's competitively priced when compared to other fresh dog food and other raw dog food companies. In fact, of all the dog food brands that I've reviewed since I returned to the USA, only one fresh dog food brand has proven cheaper than WeFeed Raw, and that's the Farmer's Dog. Once I completed the sign-up questionnaire for WeFeed Raw, I was quoted $172 a month, which is really great value. Knowing that I was feeding Skye and Copper human-grade, high-quality ingredients in a raw dog food format that had been customized to meet their specific needs, was stored in individual meal pouches, and kept my dogs motivated at mealtime and kept them energized and happy was a big bonus for me, and it was already worth the cost. And based upon my experience reviewing dog food for the past 7 years, I would say that WeFeed Raw is one of the best pound for pound dog food brands that I've actually tried and tested. So now that I've gone through some of my WeFeed Raw pros, let's take a look at some of the cons. Continuing on the theme of price, WeFeed Raw is a premium price product as you are getting a dog food subscription service with dog food tailored to meet your dog's specific needs. With that said, if you're accustomed to feeding traditional kibble or canned dog food, you may be shocked at the price. It's going to cost more than your regular dog food that you would buy in your pet store or supermarket, so that's something to keep in mind. Having said that, if you do have a picky eater and you're tearing your hair out because you can't get them to consistently eat dog food, this could be a good option, and I do believe, based upon my experience, it's well worth the investment. My second con would be freezer space. If you're familiar with fresh dog food or raw dog food, you'll know that when you get your first box, you will need to store all your meals in the freezer. This can be a bit of a pain if you have a busy family household and lots of stuff in your fridge and your freezer, and you don't have room for dog food. In my case, we fortunately have a spare freezer in the garage, so I was able to store Skye and Copper's meals in there. I would say that WeFeed Raw use packaging that's really easy to stack. Their meal pouches are in a square shape, which allows you to maximize space in your freezer. But again, if you're someone that's used to feeding kibble, then this might come as a shock that you now have to create space in your fridge and your freezer to store your dog's food, and could be a potential con for some pet owners. If you're already feeding fresh dog food, then in all likelihood you're already prepared for this potential inconvenience. My final con would be that there's no custom scooper, or there was no portion guideline on each individual meal packet. With some dog food brands, you get a custom scooper, or on meal packaging, you'll find that there's actually a pre-portion guideline to show you how much to feed at each mealtime. This wasn't the case with WeFeed Raw. While they do provide thorough guidelines on how much to feed at each mealtime, it would be great if they took some of the brain work out for pet owners, and that would be one thing I would love to see if WeFeed Raw could find some way to accommodate into their dog food subscription service. So now that I've taken you through my pros and cons, what is my WeFeed Raw verdict? Well, overall, I was a big fan of WeFeed Raw. I would not hesitate to recommend this raw dog food to you if you do have a picky eater like me, or you would just like to try raw feeding with your dog. I was honestly so surprised by how much Skye and Copper loved this dog food. We haven't typically fed raw dog food in the past, so I wasn't sure would it be a hit. But like I said, Skye showed more mealtime excitement than I've ever seen her show before with any other dog food brand. I've never seen her follow me to the kitchen. I've never seen her run rings around me as I'm carrying her food bowl to its normal location. And I've never seen her finish her dog food as quickly. We've been feeding WeFeed Raw since November, and to this day, she is still showing the same mealtime excitement. I've seen lots of other benefits too, like better digestion, firmer and consistent stools, her coat looks healthier, and her dental hygiene also looks better as well. I've noticed that her breath is actually a little bit better. So overall, WeFeed Raw was a massive hit in my house. Copper is food motivated, so I wasn't surprised to see him guzzle down his meals, but it was still a big hit, and now I'm hoping that WeFeed Raw can help me get my male Alaskan Klee Kai's weight under control. From a dog owner's perspective, I love the fact that they use meal pouches. That makes it really easy, so I know how many pouches I need a day, and I keep them defrosted in the fridge ready to serve. I like their sign-up questionnaire. It was really thorough but really easy to use, and I really liked the range of recipes that they had. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, they probably have the best range of any American dog food brand that I've actually reviewed and tried in my Alaskan Klee Kai. So overall in my house, I would give WeFeed Raw a 5-star review and a big thumbs up. If you're a picky eater or you just want to adopt a healthier and fresher approach to your dog's nutrition, I would really recommend giving WeFeed Raw a try. So there we have it. That is my WeFeed Raw pros and cons. Just before I sign off, I want to let you know that if you do want to give WeFeed Raw a try, you can save 25% on your first order. All you need to do is click the link in this video or in the description below, and that discount should automatically be applied. If you do decide to place an order with WeFeed Raw, please let me know. I'd love to hear how you get on with their raw dog food. But for now, that's all for me, and I'll see you in the next video.